Well, hello everyone. This is Nace Taylor with South Four Farms. Today we're going to be making some pure maple candy. And we take pure maple syrup made right here at South Four Farms and boil it up to 244 degrees. And that takes a little while, so there's going to be a few clips. But for right now, we get started with just about, we get it pretty full and we cook it slow. It's about 1.5 gallons, maybe a little bit more to get started. And by the time that cooks down, it's going to be a lot lower than what you see here. And we'll be back after we get this started. And it's just going to take a little while. And because I like to make a nice batch, I go ahead and do 2 pots, get them started. And that's a total of over 3 gallons. And that will make in the neighborhood of 700-800 pieces of candy, because I make the 1/3 of an ounce size. And we'll do some sample pieces because I do those to take to market. That's how I get you hooked. And we'll get all those made up, and I already have a batch of syrup that's cooked up 11 degrees over boiling, and it's completely cooled, and that's what I call my soak batch. And once I get the candy in the molds and it dries a little bit, I put it in the soak batch and let it sit overnight at least 6 hours to overnight, and it grows a sugary coating on each piece of maple candy, and that's what keeps it fresh. It seals out the moisture and keeps it fresh for up to a year. And that's how I get it to market and how you get to enjoy it. So we'll look at that after the candy gets up to temperature, and then I'll show you how we put it in the machine, get it mixed up, and use the machine to fill each individual mold. And we'll take a look at that here next. Okay everyone, I'm back. We've been cooking for quite a while. Meantime, I have bottled 4.5 cases of syrup. Heated that up. That heats up pretty quick when you're only dealing with 5 gallons of syrup. But when you've got to do this up to these temperatures, you have to cook it slow. So this one has reached 444 degrees. That's our target temperature. So we can cut that off and move it off the stove and get it over there and get it cooling. This one's just a couple of degrees behind. The syrup has to cool to 200 degrees before we can pour it in the machine and mix it. If you're doing it by hand, let it cool to 200 degrees and then stir it until it's creamy and pour it in the molds. The machine, and I'll explain all that, is water jacketed. Keeps the temperature up to about 195 degrees through the whole time you're making the candy. And that way it stays consistent, and it's quite a process. But let's get this off the stove and get it moved. Okay everybody, hopefully we're back. I've got the syrup cooled to 200 degrees. Get my wire undone there. And we're ready to pour the rest of it in. I've got the first batch in there, and we just add the second batch to it. At 200 degrees, it's nice and liquidy. When I do an episode making some maple butter, it's going to be very, very thick. Anyway, at 200 degrees, when it is stirred, it makes a harder candy that is better for soaking. Now, you do not have to soak the candy to make that crystal coating. You can just eat it without it. And what it'll do, it'll dry out in 3 weeks and you won't even be able to bite into it. So that's why I do the sugar coating. It's like science class. It grows a sugary crystal coating when I put it in the soak batch, and we'll go through that. It'll be tomorrow, but you'll see it real quick here because of technology. And anyway, fun stuff though. It's something that took me a while to to get the nerve to do. It was a little frightening. I didn't make a whole lot of syrup at first, and now with the leases and making quite a bit of syrup, I'm able to branch out a little bit. We'll have some new products coming. I keep saying that. Trust me when I say it takes more than a little bit to get products to market. It's not only an expense. You got to find the right packaging, and I'm sure I'll have a market. I got some wonderful customers. Everybody that has tried my products sincerely love it, and I try to make the best product that you can put in your mouth, and it's not always easy. Anyway, we'll let this mix a little bit and get nice and creamy, and then I'll move the camera down here and show how I put it into the mold. And that will pretty much wrap up how you make candy, except for the cooking or the sugar coating. All right, everybody, we're going to try a new adventure because I've never used this mold before. This is 3/8 inch by a 1/4 inch deep dots for my samples. I've usually just been trying to do a little dot here and there. Some of them are this big, some of them are, anyway, that's always been a mess. Finally found this nice rubber mold, and we're going to try it. And I use this little dough scraper, hopefully, because there's no way to do one little dot. It's just, I can't. Anyway, here we go. We'll see what happens. You get to see my success or failures. So I'm going to put some in there and try to move it around a little. Oh, that might work. That's going to work. I might miss a mold or two. But anyhow, that looks like it's going to work just lovely. And I hoped it would. When the syrup is this hot and that fluid, it's a whole lot different creature than when you have when you're trying to make maple butter. Yeah, I'll miss a few molds. This is like 480 cavities. I don't remember, but anyhow, we're going to go a little bit bigger because that seems to be working. Move that over. Hey, this might be just the thing I've been looking for, because this has been, it has been a nightmare trying to do it. This is my first round, so I've got quite a few samples at home in storage, so we're just going to do a few and make sure when I do samples at a fair, I put them in these little 3/4 ounce solo cups, and that way I don't have to have a wash stand or rubber gloves. The health inspectors from Louisville to Beersheba Springs, Tennessee love me because they don't have nothing to inspect. They hear I do samples, they come by and look and say, "Oh man, that's great, thank you." I say, "No, thank you." But anyway, we'll see how this comes out. Get some of this heavier stuff scraped off of here. And the beauty of when you do candy, and even if you have a misshapen piece in a mold, when you got something like this, you add it back to the machine, keep it mixing. As long as it's hot, it'll keep on working. So I'm going to step up here and scrape this back into the machine real quick. There we go. That's perfect. And even after you do a piece of candy and say it just overfills and it's way too big, then you can wait till it hardens a little bit, throw it right back into the machine. It'll mix it right up. Anyhow, this is This is how we do the individual pieces of candy. I'm taking it real slow because trying to talk and chew gum at the same time, I have overfilled them plenty. But this is what I do. These are actually 160 piece cavities or molds that I have cut in half to fit under my machine real nice. So are 80 cavities to a mold, and I've got several of those, and I fill them up, let them cool, and then I'll throw them in the soak batch. And we'll take a look at that here in a little bit. Hey everybody, last video of the day, we're putting the candy that we made. It's cooled in the molds. All the molds have been emptied. It's nice and firm, and we've got our batch of syrup that this was cooked to 11 degrees over the boiling point of water, which in our case 212 was today's boiling point, and that varies depending on barometric pressure. And today it was 223 degrees, and yes, well, that was yesterday. This has cooled overnight, so we put the candy just in this thickened syrup, and you can see it doesn't readily sink. And we made quite a bit of candy today. That was, I believe it was 9 rounds of the molds. I had to let it cool a little bit in between so I could empty them, because I've only got 6, and that's the way you got to work it. And I'll get a couple more here in the future and get them cut and ready to make, and that way I don't have to rush the candy to get it, because you have to empty it to be able to put it in a mold, and you don't want to let it just sit and circulate in the machine for a whole lot of time. But anyway, this is what we do, and then we'll come back after, we'll check it in the morning, and right now it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon as I'm putting this in here. So 12 hours, I won't be here in 12 hours. I might be here by 10 o'clock in the morning, and time I take care of my duties at home and get here and get everything situated and check it. I'll pull a couple of pieces out and make sure it's sugar coated, and if it's not where I want it to be, I'll leave it in there a few more hours, and hopefully after about 14-16 hours it'll be nice and sugary, and that way it will last longer on the shelf, and that is my goal. That way, if you buy it now, and this is first part of October, if you buy it now and want to save it for Christmas, it'll be just as good as it will be tomorrow when I take it out. So that's what I want to do, and make sure I have the best product out there. And I got it in this basket, and I got to get it all settled down there because it likes to float. But tomorrow I'll dump it out on a big wire rack, let it drain, and then dry it with a damp sponge, if that makes any sense. First time I read the directions, I thought, how do you dry anything with a damp sponge? And what that does, it wicks this heavy syrup off of the candy and just leaves that sugary coating. And then you put it on some wire racks like this one right here, and I put it on my speed rack and just let them air dry, and that leaves that sugary coating. Any of you that's had it knows what I'm talking about. You get a little crunch, and then this just melts in your mouth like a fudge, and it is awesome. So if you're wondering why 8 pieces of maple candy cost $8, not only do I have to make it, it takes 40 gallons of sap to make a gallon of syrup. Then you boil that syrup up to the softball stage, which is 244 degrees. Let it cool down to 200 degrees. and then you stir it like you saw me do, and you pour it in the mold. You can do a little bit by hand. I wouldn't do really over a half a gallon by hand, because it hardens while you're trying to get it in the little molds. Now you can put it in a bigger mold, or you can put it on just a cookie sheet, and while it's still pliable, you can take a knife and score it, and that way it'll break real nice when you get it done, you know, once it hardens. But anyway, we always take the pieces that overfilled. I take a few of those home for my beautiful bride to check out, and I like to munch on them too. So all the broken pieces, misshapen pieces, I take home. We enjoy them. And one time, one of the broken pieces got away from me, hit the floor. Our Pomeranian hit that thing like a bass, and he just goes and sits down. He don't understand what's happening. I think he had a out-of-body experience. But anyway, get this poked down in there. It's got to be covered, and I don't let him have much candy. Every now and then I give him a little crumb or something, but we sure enjoy it. If I didn't like the products that I put out, I would not make them to sell. I just wouldn't do it. I mean, where's the fun in that? May be profitable, but anyhow, I will cover this with a piece of filter material that is cut for this size. I have it dampened, and that will keep the sugar from forming on top, so that when I take it out, it's nice and liquidy, and it pours right off. And the sugar, it's like making rock candy to a point. It grows on the candy, and it's wonderful. And I think you'll like it. Catch us at one of our events and give it a try. I've always got samples, and we'll get back to this tomorrow, and I'll show you the finished product. Well, hey everyone, back this morning to check out how we did. So we get the aluminum foil off, get rid of that, and then we pull up the filter material, which was damp, and you wring it out. And what that does, of course, like I said before, it keeps a layer of sugar from forming right on top of the syrup. So that's what we want to avoid. Anything that comes out of here, I can add purified boiling water, get it reduced, you know, very light syrup, and then cook it back up. There's very little waste. The biggest waste in making any maple product is filtering the syrup when you make it. All right, let's give this a little go here. I take a damp sponge. I usually put a few pieces at a time on there. Oh yeah, that looks real nice. So I think we're a go. I don't know how well you can see the crystal coating, but once that dries, let me get that a little more dry. Once it air dries, it'll leave a nice layer of sugar on there. Looks like sandpaper, but it's pure maple. Oh, it's delicious. And what I do for now, okay, done with that cat. It's hard to do anything when you don't have a set of hands. And I thought I was fully prepared. It's what I get for thinking. Also, good help is hard to find. Yesterday I reviewed the video from when I was boiling the syrup up. Thought I had it done. I said it was at 442 degrees. No. I tell you what, you can't get good help. That is heavy. But we'll set that dude right there. Let it drain. I don't know, about 30 minutes. There's one must have got away from me. It was on the outside, but that's all right. So I will let that dude drain, and then I will pour it out on this. It's a full-size baking sheet, commercial. Will not go into an oven, a household oven. But anyway, get that one set right over there. So when I'm ready to start drying them, I can put that right out and lay them all out there, and then put them in this speed rack here behind me, and let them air dry for a while, and we'll be back. Okay, everyone, it's about time to dump this out on this baking sheet on this wire rack. And it's, you know, it's not rocket science. These are how the little sample pieces came out. I love it. Sheila thought it was perfect, and that's the main thing that matters. All right, I'll tell you what, trying not to get them to go in the floor, because there's no recovery from that. There we go. Now I'm going to move this soak batch and get that ready to boil up. So what I do at this point, I can either add a little more syrup, boil it back up to a soak batch, and do another round of candy, which I may do. Or what I typically do at this point is add a little more syrup. Either way, you want to make the most out of it. And then I boil it up to the thread stage, which is 234 degrees above the boiling point of water. And then I cool that in a water bath. You can do it in an ice bath. I just do a circulating water bath and get that below 80 degrees. And it's very thick when it's cool. And you add that to the machine, mix it until it becomes spreadable. It's a creamy, it's like peanut butter, like there's no butter in it. So it's just creamy. It's like an icing. And people that try it, I had one woman say I'd eat that on a flip-flop. So anyway, I'm going to get this soak batch out of the way and dry a few pieces for you to see. And it's pretty straightforward from there. All right, it's time to get to some serious drying. So I usually put, I don't know, a few pieces on one of the sponges, then take the other one, and I've always got a spare set, so when they get full of syrup, I can just throw them in there, dig the other two out. But that looks pretty good right there. So we place them on here, and hopefully I can get 120 on each one of these racks and put them in my speed rack, and that way I can get a quick count and know how well I did. I'd say there's well over 800 pieces, because I'm pretty sure I had 9 trays of candy out of the molds, and so they're 80 each. So I got quite a few. Now some of these get a little extra sugar on them, so you got to do a little wiping to get that off. You don't want it to pile up. It will it won't allow it to breathe, and they have to breathe. That's why I put them in cardboard, at least cardboard backed boxes. 2 pieces plastic clamshell with a cardboard insert, so you get a little air flow, and that allows it not to sweat. And because if it sweats, it'll dissolve the candy, it'll turn white, and it'll get so hard you can't even bite into it. So it'd probably been better if I'd have got here a couple hours ago. It wouldn't have sugared over so much, but sometimes it's hard to get moving in the morning. And I had to take care of my sweetheart. She works really hard, so I always fix her breakfast. I take care of the dogs and get them going. And but we just take care of each other. She's an amazing woman. But anyway, that's how you do it. Some of these got a little heavy. Now the ones on the bottom here tend to get sugared over a little heavier. It won't be so bad once I get down through it. But it's quite a little pile of candy. And this is how I arrange them on the drying rack. And get 14 this way, no, 14 that way, and I done forgot. 15, but we'll figure that out later. But anyway, that's what you do to make the candy, and hope to see you all at one of the events, and enjoy.